The following is a Spirit Street production.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. You know, I told you the last time I was on Friday that we were going to make a couple of changes, and we are. You know, it's the summer months and, the dog days of summer. So today we're changing it up. Me and Fitz are going to talk a little bit and talk about the Big 12 football season and what the insiders may believe as far as what the outcome of the season and what the expectations are for each individual team. We're going to get into that and maybe a little bit more. We appreciate everybody being in here. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. This is Brien Hanley along with Tim Fitzgerald. Fitz, you are just back from Vegas. Had a good time in Vegas. How was that?
Let's put it this way. I'm still in recovery mode. I could be colorful today, or I might fall asleep on my computer, but I have faith I'll get through the length of this show. I can do 30 minutes, maybe 35, Big B.
I got you. Well, we appreciate you coming back in one piece. We missed you, so thanks for joining us today. So today, people, we got a good show today. You know, like I mentioned at the opening, we're going to try to change it up a little bit as far as the show during the summer. Not a ton going on right now, so we want to try to make the shows as fun as we possibly can. So today we're talking about Big 12 football and what we think, or more what I think put out there, where the teams are going to come in. You know, what the finish of each individual team, basically the standings for the season. We'll go from bottom up to the top, 16-1 on where we think teams are going to lie. Fitz, first of all, Fitz, any thoughts on the season, but, going into the summer? A lot can change, and that's the thing. One thing that just before I cut you off, Fitz, is this is going into the summer.
Right.
With the transfer portal, somebody may pick up 3 or 4 more people. We think rosters are set. We think they're set, but you never know because, again, there are still plenty of people, these student athletes that are still in the portal right this very second. So, and that's the thing. The transfer portal doesn't mean you can't get into it, but that doesn't mean you can't get out of it. So there's plenty of people that are still in this thing. Who knows what's going to happen right now, Fitz?
You're exactly right. I'm not typically an analytics person, but one of the things I like to do when I pick standings, how I think the finish order will be, is actually go through schedules and do wins and losses.
Right.
Because where the games are, who you play, now in unbalanced schedules of this conference, it can make a big difference. And so what I've done is retrieve the Kelley Ford Ratings for the Big 12 team by team. They do national stuff. It's an incredible website. They're on Twitter. And I'm going to be honest, Kelley, thank you. I'm going to steal your pecking order, your order of finish here, because you just did exactly what I like to do, but now I don't have to work. But I've reviewed a lot of these ratings out there, and this is the one I trust the most. As an example, look, I'm a Big 12 defender. I think the Big 12 is going to be really good, but where do they fit in the national pecking order? Well, the highest ranked Big 12 team coming into the season, according to these ratings, is Kansas State at 17. So I put that into context with what you're about to see with the rest of the conference and how really we compare and contrast by what Big B thinks and what the ratings think. And you know what? Pretty damn close. You can kind of see sections develop of the conference that, you're going to pick this team over that team, but for the most part, they're pretty darn close, Big B.
Gotcha. So I think this is going to be fun. I haven't even looked at any of this yet either.
Yeah.
I know people are going to think
that's
just fodder, but no, I haven't seen it. So
I didn't tell them about it until 5 seconds before we started.
All right. Well, let's get this thing started here. So at number 16, I've got BYU, Fitz. I don't think BYU really even knows who their quarterback per se is going to be yet. Other teams coming into the conference, I think it's just going to be a struggle. Doesn't necessarily mean that because you struggle, I don't want to say that you have a bad football program. I'm just saying that this season, I just see BYU having a struggle this year. I think they're going to be at the bottom of the conference. That could change. Anything can happen. As we know, football is a crazy sport, college football. But as I see it right now, I think BYU comes in at 16.
Okay. Here's what Kelley Ford has for BYU. Overall rating -1. It'll kind of have some context when you can compare and contrast.
Mm-hmm.
They've got them at 13 in the conference. If you look at the overall, the bottom 6 are all a grouping. I mean, I think almost everyone will have the bottom 6 together. And,
Right.
Whoops, I've got to remember to do that. I think that'll be pretty common with no matter whose rankings you look at. I'm sure there's some outliers there, but yeah, you've got BYU at 16. Kelley Ford has them at 13, but all those numbers on the left, let me point something out. These involve the schedules. So
Right.
the rating on the left is kind of your national standings, but then the finish on the right won't follow the ratings because you got to go through the schedule and the strength of schedule. And so you'll see some discrepancies here that make sense if you think about some schedules are harder than others.
Absolutely. Moving on to number 15. I got Cincinnati Bearcats coming in at 15. Look, their problem last year, and we discussed this with our man Chad several times, quarterback issue was the problem. Well, they may have figured that out, but the one thing about Cincinnati that I'm afraid that right now, Fitz, I think on both sides of the line, they got to beef up. I think coming from the American, I think that's the one thing that they saw is these guys are bigger in the Big 12 on both sides of the line. We got to get bigger. I think they're still in that adjustment phase. I think they come in at number 15.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you've got a weakness such as that in a single matchup, you can kind of compensate for a game and maybe pull off the win. But boy, when you start running into week after week of being outsized,
that's right.
You get your butt kicked. And I think that's what happened to some of the newcomers. Here's what Kelley Ford thinks about U of C. That got him at 12. Got him, up in there a little bit. Another 0.5, a negative number. But again, they're in that grouping of 6, and you kind of shuffle the deck. Honestly, this one was a little higher than I thought it would be.
Well, the thing is, they got a quarterback,
right?
And when you have a quarterback in college football, that means a lot. They didn't have a good quarterback last year. He was an outstanding athlete. I get that, but he wasn't a great quarterback. I think they found maybe a guy that they can lean on a little bit, so that might change a few things. We still have him at 15. At number 14, I've got Houston. Look, I have preached about Willie Fritz. I'm still going to continue to do that, but they're still rebuilding. Brand new system. Look, anytime there's a new coach, there's going to be times when you're still going to have players from the old regime that aren't fully bought in, but you couldn't get them all out. It's going to take a minute. Now, trust me, Willie Fritz will get them all out. Don't get me wrong. He'll get them all out, and everybody will be bought in, but it's just going to take a little bit. I think they're definitely in rebuilding mode. I think they are coming in at 14.
Well, Kelley Ford's ratings have them at 15. Pretty much agree with everything you said. They're -2.9. They're towards the bottom of the conference in that and nationally. And if you're really interested in this, you can pause this video and look, or you can find all these on their website or on the X account for all the conferences. They've been releasing them as they go. But yeah, I think they reflect exactly what you think, Big B. There's going to be a process here that needs some time to shake out.
Yeah, I just thinks it's going to take a little bit. Number 13, we have Arizona State. Look, Arizona State, again, the last couple of years, a lot of transfers. I just think that they're still rebuilding. They're trying to put this thing together. I think they have the fan base if they care, which I think they do, or they're going to start to care. I think they have something that they can build upon here, Fitz. They just got to get in the right frame of mind. Look, they were close in a lot of games last year. Plus, they ran through 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And that's tough. That's tough anywhere. But coming into the new conference is going to be a little bit better than the Pac-12 was. Maybe not last year, but overall, it's a better conference. Arizona State at number 13.
Okay, here we go. ASU. Kelley Ford has them dead last. -3.2 overall ranking or rating. I think they're still in a kind of a retooling phase under the new coaching staff, but I think they'll get there eventually. But this could be a little shock to the system for the Sun Devils.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to these different places where they maybe haven't been before, different conference. It could be just a little shock to them. Coming in that next, and I believe we're at number 12, is Baylor. Look, this is a make or break year for Baylor. Dave Aranda, this thing has gone completely off the rails, Fitz, at Baylor. I mean, just off the rails. I don't know how. I don't know what happened. I think maybe they thought he got a little bit too big for his britches. That's kind of the word coming out of some boosters out of Baylor, is that he thought that the program was in better shape than what it was. A lot of talk about, when they won the Big 12, they weren't all his recruits.
Right.
And now that these guys are his recruits, we're starting to see this. So I think this is a make or break season. I don't know if they can get to 6-6. I think it might save his job, but this is where I think they come in.
Yep. You've got them at what, 12?
12.
Well, Kelley Ford has them at 11, 1.7. They were into the positive numbers now. So yeah, I think they're going to be improved. But again, you can see on the right that there's a underneath where it says Baylor, it says overall ratings. And those are the numbers of victories for the projection, 5.3 and 6.7 losses. So you can kind of see that they are literally straddling that 6-6
Right.
fence that you predict they need to get to save Dave Aranda's job.
Right. So next up at number 11, this is the one that, I went back and forth on, but Colorado. For me, like I said, I think Colorado's got to win in 7 to 8 games this year. If they go 6-6, that's not a success. It just isn't. They got to win more games than that. The way that he's doing it, Coach Prime is doing it, you got to get to 7. I think 8 wins to be successful. Now, don't get me wrong, from where they came from, yes, it is a huge turnaround. But for me, this is where I think they're going to be at number 11. I think 7-5, somewhere in that range.
This is probably the most volatile school, in people's predictions, upward or downward.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't know what to do with them.
Nope.
You saw some flashes of absolute genius at the start of the year, and it all kind of came apart. They seem to have a more, D1 ready roster now, particularly on the line. So we'll see where this all falls. But Kelley Ford ain't buying in quite yet. They've got him at 14, just a little bit of a negative number. But I want to point out it's because of the schedule, Big B. I mean,
yeah,
he's got him at 2.8 conference wins and a 4.5 overall wins, because there's almost no gimmies on this schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be a challenging road for Colorado.
Yes.
Of all the things Joel Klatt said when saying that Colorado might contend for the Big 12 championship, was that they play an easy schedule.
Right.
They don't, Joel.
No,
I got news for you. They have a lot of tests on their schedule within the conference that makes it maybe the toughest of the Big 12 conferences. But that just kind of goes to prove that a lot of the national media, including Joel, who I greatly respect, he's one of my favorites, gets a little too caught up on the helmet sticker rather than what's under the helmet.
Well, he went to Colorado too.
Yeah. And so, he thinks Colorado's above everyone when the numbers really say that's not true.
Absolutely. All right. So at number 10, we got West Virginia. Now, a lot of people are going to be mad at me, Fitz, for putting West Virginia this low because of the record that they had last year. But if you take a deeper dive, and even if you ask West Virginia fans, they're going to say, well, look at what our schedule was last year. They missed everybody.
Right.
They missed them. And so they were able to capitalize. Now, I don't want to take away from the year that Neil Brown, look, if anybody was under more pressure than any coach last year, Neil Brown had to be. I mean, they fired the athletic director. They basically said, you don't win, you're getting fired. And he goes and pulls off that kind of record last year. So congrats to him. But things are going to be different this year. I don't think they're going to be a terrible team. I just don't see them jumping out of the screen. I think things will come back a little bit to reality here.
And the Kelley Ford ratings agree. So finished 10th place. Yeah. Hold on. Is it? Yep. So you just look at the schedule for them. Again, I respect them so much. I mean, they got Pitt and Penn State, and their overall ratings is Penn State's number 6 in the nation. So, and then you just start going through the conference games of Kansas and Oklahoma State and Iowa State and K-State and Arizona. Those are some of the best teams in the conference according to these rankings, these ratings. So, it's about who you play, not who you are sometimes. And I think they'll be a little bit farther down. I kind of agree with this, but now we're getting into the Big 12 zone where you might be 10th in this conference, but that doesn't mean jack crap at the start of the season. When we get to the end of the season, you might be third. I mean, that's just the way this conference rolls on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And which for Big 12 fans out there, or just college football in general fans that are out there, that's what's going to make the conference so fun. Just what Fitz said is that it's just, you're never going to know what's going to happen. You're going to see a lot of exciting football throughout the season here, though. One more before we hit our first break here. We are at number 9, UCF. Look, I thought UCF, they had a tackling problem last year. They just forgot how to tackle.
That's a problem.
And then they had a quarterback issue. Their quarterback got hurt. That was a big problem for them last year. Two issues that if you don't tackle and your quarterback gets hurt, that's usually a recipe for disaster, and that's kind of what happened. I think they bounced back because they did really well recruiting and transfer portal. I think UCF has a bounce back year. I think they finish up at 9.
So, that 9 and below are the lower half and 8 and above are the upper half. And that's a fine line in this conference. Here's what Kelley Ford's got them finishing 8th, got them 1 spot higher, overall rating of 5.7, 4.9 conference wins, 7.1 wins overall. So yeah, I mean, they're right there where you thought they'd be. But again, this conference is brutal, trying to just get through. If you survive the middle of the pack, you're a pretty good team, let alone when you get into the upper numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take our first break here. And on the other half, again, we'll finish out the schedule. Talking today, people, about the Big 12 order of predictions going into the summer. We will probably do this again once the summer is over because, again, a lot of things can change with this crazy world of college football. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial Partners.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is Brien, Hanley, Big B, along with our man, Tim Fitzgerald Fitz. So we're talking today, we are talking the Big 12 2024 football season, where we think the standings are going to come into place here. So we left off at number 9. Now we're down to number 8, and I have Texas Tech. Look, I thought Texas Tech, just like a lot of people, and I think you were as well, Fitz, thought Tech maybe in the Big 12 championship game last year. Didn't get off to a good start. Got upset on the road in an obvious trap game with Wyoming. I'm not trying to take anything away from Wyoming, but Tech was a better football team than them. And they overlooking them to look at Oregon, who was coming to town the very next week. And it happens. And so things didn't get started off. They also went through a slew of quarterbacks as well. Although they do have one of the more premier running backs, not just in the Big 12, but in the country.
Yep.
It's tough when you don't have stable quarterback play. So hopefully Tech can get that this year, but I see them finishing right at number 8, right in the middle of the pack.
I neglected something on UCF. That was our first nationally ranked Kelley Ford ratings to the top 40. UCF was at 40. Here's Tech, who he has nationally at 37. Big 12 finished at 7. So a little bit ahead of you, but yeah, it all checks out. 7.6 overall victories is what the computer spits out. I want to believe in Tech, but I've still got shock from last year that I missed that one by so much.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I think a lot of people were surprised at what happened, but again, you losing quarterbacks. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You can't go into the season predicting you're going to lose 2 quarterbacks having to play a true freshman. That's a recipe for disaster. Moving on. Number 7, I've got Arizona. Now, a lot of people are going to look at me sideways because I have Arizona down so low. But look, the roster was somewhat gutted. They got a new coach. Their coach left and went to Washington. You're coming into a new conference. I think this is a good place for Arizona. Can they be better than this? Of course. Absolutely. I don't know if you should say that they're going to be better than this, but they can be. So I've got them at 7.
And I'm trying to find them here. There they are. The last one we loaded up. Got them at 3rd, 9.7 overall. So yeah, that kind of shows maybe the difference here. This is interesting to me, Big B, because this is computer.
Right.
There's no, you're a former football player, college football player, Big 12 football player. So you get the shock to the system. A coaching change could have positive or negative. When Aranda came into BYU, it's positive, but most of the time it's negative as you try to retool your environment within your program.
Yes.
I don't think the computer recognizes that. And so they've got him a little bit higher. In fact, they've got him at 26 nationally. So U of A is going to be a good bell cow here to understand where the middle of the conference is. If they start slipping down, this conference is pretty good. And I'll be blunt, if they float to the top, maybe the conference isn't as good as we expect, simply because they've got some unproven aspects to the program as they head into the new regime.
True. Very true. At number 6, I've got Iowa State. Iowa State, again, another team that just came out of the chutes last year terrible. And I think Iowa State fans thought it was going to be a lost season. They salvaged it, though. Yep. Matt Campbell, people get on him a lot because it seemed for a while his name came up for every big job, and he was always going to be the guy that left. And he never did. And then the last couple of years, the year before, and then last year at the beginning of the season, it was like, well, hold on a second. Is this guy really that good a coach? I look at their season and their situation, and I'm like, yeah, he's probably a pretty decent coach. He got that thing turned around, but I've got him at number 6.
I thought he did an incredible job last year. Yeah. I mean, everything that program went through with roster losses and the whole gambling nonsense, it's kind of been blown up. But, they found their quarterback. They settled in. They struggled at the start. I hope he stays in this conference a long time, because I think the programs that are going to be best in the Big 12 will be the ones that don't have, kind of up and down leadership. You got some consistency. You start to look at some of the top programs, K-State, Utah, Oklahoma State, all have long-term coaches or, 6 years and beyond. So what do we got here? We got Iowa State, right? I'm at 9, 7.9. It gets really crowded in the middle if you start breaking down the numbers. It gets difficult to predict exactly, and that's what the computer spit out. I'm with you. I think they'll be a little higher than that.
Yep, I do too. Number 5, TCU. Now, look, TCU was a down year. It seemed like they just had cannon fodder and just kept taking ammunition, gunfire from the national championship game 2 years ago, and that avalanche just didn't stop all season. They couldn't get it back under control. They heard about it all off season. Look, TCU is a better program than what they showed last year. They just are. They recruit well. It's in DFW, which is a hotbed for high school football. They also do a very good job in the transfer portal. They did again this season. I just think they have a bounce back year. I think they come in at 5.
Okay, here's TCU, according to Kelley Ford, 6. Pretty similar. 8.4 overall rating nationally. That puts them at 34 nationally. 5.3 conference wins, 7.4 overall. One of the things that's really cool about what the Kelley Ford ratings do is if you look under the TCU, you can see the percentage chances of the number of wins. And it gets pretty interesting, but it kind of works out to whatever falls in the middle. And that's 7.4, but 6% chance of winning 10. So it's very interesting to me how these rankings or ratings are put together, because they're very thorough.
Absolutely. Coming in at number 4, I've got Oklahoma State. Fitz, I don't know that I've seen a team where you have the starting quarterback that's experienced, the Doak Walker Award winner coming back.
Who's a boss?
18 total starters coming back, and a coach that's been there for 20 years, and you won 10 games, get more disrespected than Oklahoma State. I've never heard. It's unbelievable how people just don't even mention them being a good football team, and yet year after year, this is what we're doing. I just don't understand it, but I got them at number 4.
Again, veteran coach, knows
Yes.
a lot of tricks. Pulled out a lot of them last year to get that team into the Big 12 championship. Had hit the hot streak at the exact moment in the schedule when you needed to beat those teams for the tiebreakers. But yeah, I think what we're seeing now is a lot of people not saying it out loud, but reflecting it in their rankings. They got lucky,
Right.
They had everything go right. I don't necessarily buy that, but I'll tell you this: the computer thinks you're exactly right. Finished 4th place, 11.0 overall ranking. 21st in the nation in the overall rankings. Going to win 8.3 games as a statistical probability. So I like them at 4. It gets difficult at 3. Then who's 3, and we will see a difference there.
Right. So at number 3, I have got KU. I think Kansas. Look, again, everything that they have all the momentum to build up to this season. It's a shame that they're not playing any home games. I mean, they're playing at Arrowhead Stadium this year, which, some people say it's a disadvantage. I don't know, man. If I'm a college student and I get to play my games where Patrick Mahomes gets to play his home games, I'm thinking that's a pretty good deal. That's just me, though.
Yeah.
That's just me. But with everything that KU has coming back and the momentum that they have built, there's a lot of people that for some reason don't think that KU can compete for a Big 12 title because they haven't done it before. And I'm like, that's not how college football works these days. That's just not how it works. KU at number 3.
Yeah. Overall, I think what all of us struggle with KU, of course, is quarterback. I mean, Jalen Daniels plays, is healthy, really good.
Yes.
It's more of an unknown the other way. But here's what Kelley Ford ratings say: finished 5th, 8.5. Look, that's a good season. But now we're seeing the first kind of plus chances. It's 1% to go 12-0, but thank you, dogs. But it's, now we're seeing, if you looked at those numbers, 14% at 10 wins isn't outlandish at all. And I think it's achievable for this KU football team.
Absolutely. I think KU is going to have a good season this year. I just think the momentum for that program is just building in the right direction. So got 2 left. We're going to take our final break here. We'll be right back. Again, one word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial, and we'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Big 12 Insiders. This is, again, Brien Hanley with Tim Fitzgerald. So today we're going over Big 12 standings, what the predictions are at this particular moment. Again, a lot of things can change during the summer. We'll probably do this again, Fitz, before the season starts.
Right.
So, but we got our final 2. Number 2, Kansas State. Now, there are a lot of people like Kansas State to be at the top of the conference. And I definitely think they can be at the top of the conference. I just think it's going to be a battle. You got to pick one or the other. I went with Kansas State being number 2.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's interesting because whether it's, the bookmakers, the journalists, the prognosticators, or the computer, this is Utah, K-State. 1-2 is that. And they just flip back and forth because it's that narrow.
Right.
But when you come to K-State in these rankings, number 1, 14.2, 9.5 projected overall victories, 5% chance of going unbeaten, 29% chance of winning 10 or more. But,
right.
It's really close. Nationally, the Kelley Ford has K-State at 17, as I mentioned, and that's the highest in the conference nationally, which is also reflected in how they picked them with the league.
Right. And like I said, I like Kansas State a lot. But they still got some I shouldn't say holes, some places where they have to prove themselves. Look, everybody loves Avery Johnson, but
Right.
he hasn't started a full season yet. How many games
100.
has he even started as a quarterback? That's the
Yeah.
first thing. I go, and they've got a lot to replace on the offensive line.
Yep.
Now, they've got a good offensive line, and a lot of those guys have experience, so that absolutely helps, but they lost a lot. So, there's still some things there to be proven. Number one, I've got Utah. Look, we've talked about this earlier. You mentioned it as far as program stability. Utah coming into the conference for me is the most ready team that I have seen come into the Big 12
Yeah.
because they play Big 12 brand of football. They
do.
play physical football. They don't throw it all over the lot, and spread everybody out and throw it 60 times a game. No, they'll line up and they want to just beat you into submission. Well, that's what a lot of Big 12 teams want to do. So I think they fit in well. They had some quarterback issues last year. The quarterback is coming back. A successful quarterback is coming back and will probably more than likely stabilize things within that offense. So I like Utah. Like I said, it's a coin flip between them and Kansas State, but I had Utah at number one.
Well, and you could make the argument for quarterback being the exact reason why you would do that. Cam Rising's
Right.
a veteran who's been around a lot, a little beaten up at this point. And Avery's young and healthy, but will he stay healthy? And what does young mean in terms of his play in the conference? Kelley Ford's got him at finishing second, 12.6 overall. They're the 19th ranked team. So K-State was 17, Utah 19. That's how close they are nationally, let alone within the conference. Has them winning 9.3. The numbers are just so similar. Once again, even if it's the computer, Utah and K-State, they don't play each other in the regular season. Just seems like the logical end to this season at the Big 12 championship. But Big B will also note that doesn't typically happen at all.
No,
not in this conference.
No, absolutely not. I love the competitiveness of this entire conference, Fitz, and what it's going to bring to the table.
Right.
We've talked about this several times, and I'm going to keep mentioning it because I think it's important to get this message out, is that the Big 12 in football, it needs to be based on our strength is in the numbers, the number of teams that we have that play very, very competitive football. We don't have a blue blood within this conference. We're never going to have a blue blood. Well, I say never. We don't have one now. So there's not a blue blood coming anytime soon. So the strength has to be in numbers and have as many competitive, good football programs as possible. And I think this year, it's going to be that. Look, I know they talk about the SEC and the Big 10. At top to bottom, I will put the Big 12 up against them. I'm not saying they're better. I would say I would put them up against them.
Yeah, it just depends on how you rank the conference. If you rank the conference simply based on its best teams, okay, I'll buy that.
Right.
But if you're looking at depth and competitiveness, no, the Big 12's up there. Absolutely more competitive than any of the other remaining power conferences. It makes, as I've said, volatile. I mean, you can end up with total outcomes you don't expect. It makes it difficult in the sports betting space. And I think as Utah progresses, they're going to find out that I've said this before, Big B, but I think it's something they don't quite grasp yet. Football means something at almost every school you go to, probably all of them. It's valuable to the fans. They will get after you. They show up. And again, you're going to run into that physical brand of football more often than not in the Big 12, which kind of has a toll that gets paid as you get deeper and deeper into the schedule.
Absolutely. So, well, we appreciate everybody taking the time to join us. We are, I think at last count, Fitz, I think we were 10 subscribers away from that 1,000. 10. So I appreciate everybody that has subscribed so far, but please make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Also hit the notification bell so you know when all our good content starts coming out. So we appreciate all the support. We will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.